how can you identify and win the high-paying clients that everybody else is missing? That's what we're going to be talking about today. So there's so much to go through today. So I really want to jump right into it. And here's what we're going to be going. So here's the outline for today. First, we're going to go through 3 examples of clients that seem like they're going to be awesome clients to work with, kind of like your ideal clients, maybe, these high energy, ready to get started kind of clients, but that actually end up being toxic clients. So we're going to, go through 3 examples of that, how to identify that, how to avoid that. Then we're going to go through 3 examples of how you can connect in with clients that seem uninterested or that seem like they're probably not going to be your ideal clients upon a first impression, but actually end up being really great, high value, long-term clients. So we'll talk about how to identify those folks. And then what we'll do in the second half of today's talk is we're going to go through how do you avoid those toxic clients and how do you win the clients that might otherwise seem uninterested. And so I'll go through basically 3 different examples of each of those to kind of counteract the three traits that these different types of clients have. So we're going to have a lot to talk about today. It's going to be a really, really big conversation because what you're going to find is that the end of all of this, the end result of this is going to be that you have the insight to be able to connect in with the types of clients you really want to be working with on that ongoing kind of monthly retainer type of relationship. So here we go. So let's start at the top. So who are the clients who seem like they're going to be great fits, but they're actually not really so great after all? So the first kind of category that I kind of put this in are what I would call like the excited, like high energy client. You find this client and, they're searching out for you. They have a lot to talk about. There's just so many things going on. They talk really fast, lots of energy, want to get connected, want to get started right away. Let's do it now kind of client. And a lot of times it's very enticing because you're like, oh yeah, let's get started now. Let's go. Let's build this site. Let's do this project. Let's get clients. Let's do all this stuff. And the problem with these types of clients, and this is not necessarily a disqualifying feature, mind you. It's just one of those things that seems like it could be a great type of a client, but before you really jump on board, you want to kind of check things out a little bit more deeply, because oftentimes I think you're going to find that these types of clients are those clients that just have too many irons in the fire. They're too scatterbrained or distracted, or there's no focus, or there's no real clarity. They want to do things all the time in all areas, and so you kind of connect with them up front. But then it turns out that, as soon as you get your thoughts together and you start working on things, they're off doing something else. And so it's kind of like, almost like the hurry up and wait kind of a client, which we'll talk about in a second. But it's just, there's no focus there. There's no persistence. There's no commitment. There's just high energy, and that's really all there is. It's just a surface level high energy, and then clients kind of move on from there. And so my warning is, don't take initial interest and excitement and enthusiasm as the only factor in determining who you really want to be working with. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit later on about standards and setting standards for who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with, and kind of having the foresight up front to be able to identify that sort of stuff. We'll get to that later, but this is one of the examples where that really comes into play, where it's just not about one thing. It's not about excitement. It's not about getting started. It's not about people just saying yes. You want to make sure that you're connecting in with the right clients at the right price, with the right energy level, all of that stuff. So, thing number 1 is like the excited client. That's thing number 1. Might be something to check into before you start working together. Thing number 2 is the I have so much to talk about client. And, like you connect in with somebody, they want to build a website and more, right? They're doing so many different things. And what they're really looking for, though, is an implementer rather than someone to actually help lead the online aspect of their business. So that's the big warning with the I have so much to talk about client. And so what that looks like is you connect in with somebody and they're like, oh, I'm so glad that I found you. I've been looking for someone who can. And then they begin to list all of the different types of things that they want somebody to do. And so the warning with that means, so again, that could potentially be a good sign, which is why I'm mentioning this. because a lot of times people get connected in with somebody like that and they immediately think that this is a great client, this is what we're going to do, and they just jump in with both feet, only to find out that scope creep becomes a problem, nitpickiness becomes a problem, the never-ending cycles of revisions before you launch the site becomes a problem. All of these different things begin to just pile up. And here's why. It's because the people that often come to you and they're like, oh, I just have so much to talk about, they're not really looking for someone to lead their online aspect of their business. They think that they know what's best for them and they just want someone to do all of the things that they say. Oftentimes these are creative people. Oftentimes these are high energy people too, like we just talked about. But what they're really looking for is an implementer rather than anyone who's actually going to come to the table with leadership and experience and expertise. And so one of the things that you'll find is these are the people that want the cheapest work and they want it for the lowest price, and it's exhausting. It's the kind of client that you just don't want to have this kind of a client. And these tend to be the people that you oftentimes can connect with, like on Upwork or Fiverr, or if you get leads from Craigslist, or if you just happen to be in a cycle of people know you for doing inexpensive work, and so you get a referral or something like that, then you get these fast talking, high energy, I've got so much to talk about types of clients. And they oftentimes are not really the best types of clients. They tend to be high stress, high deadline kind of pressure, just never really getting to the point kind of clients. And again, they want the implementer. Implementers are really inexpensive, and we'll talk about why that is here in a bit too. But that's kind of thing number 2, the I have so much to talk about client. Thing number 3 is that looks kind of like it would be a good client, but ends up not being, is the hurry up and wait client. And so, hey, Alan, high five. Boop. Good to see you, man. And so the hurry up and wait client, what that looks like is, kind of like the other two combined. Like they're excited. They have so much to talk about. They're putting a lot of intent and pressure and, everything on you to really, really get started. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And so you do. And so you onboard the client. You start doing the work. You start doing all the things they say. And then then they don't really have any sort of intent on their end to really follow up. And so this is kind of like the distracted thing again. Like oftentimes people are like, I really need this right away. It's like, I wish this was done last week. And so, it's great that I'm finally meeting you because this is something I've needed done for a long time. I really needed it already. It's basically late before we even got started. Can you really get it done? And then you do, and you do your best. Maybe you can even charge a premium at first for that. But then what happens is, they never get back to review the final thing. The site never launches. They're busy with some other fire. They're constantly putting out fires. And then that sort of anxiety and stress and everything rolls over onto you. And you just then have this really stressful, high intensity client that's not really going to be a great long-term client to have because they're constantly stressing you out. Everything that they want you to do is already late before they even ask you to do it. And so again, it seems like at first impression that somebody's really ready to get started. They really want this going. Working with you is a no-brainer because they're already late. They want things to go. And so you agree. It's a big red flag. And so I wanted to bring that out because it's so easy to get trapped in that. Like when you need a project, when you need some income coming in and somebody's there, just begging you to take it, to hurry up and get started. But then it turns up into really a hurry up and wait sort of a situation. And, every single thing is always late before they even ask for it. And so that's a stressful situation. You don't want that to continue. So those are the 3 types of clients who seem like they would be good fits, good long-term, high-value clients at first impression, but it turns out that they end up not really being the kind of clients that you really want. So now let's talk about 3 characteristics for clients who seem like maybe they would be bad clients, or maybe they're totally uninterested, altogether, but actually turn out to be the types of clients you really want to be working with, long-term, great relationship types of clients. The first one is the I can't afford that client. And so a lot of times people will come up, this is maybe the number one, the biggest one, is you'll come up and present what you're offering to a client or whatever, and you'll stick the price on there, and they'll immediately kind of recoil and be like, oh, I can't afford that. It's too expensive. Everybody else is half the price or less or whatever. And so you get this I can't afford that type of client. And we've talked about this a couple of times about like, how do you overcome the I can't afford that myth? And the truth is, most of the time, not all of the time, most of the time, when a client says they can't afford it, what they really mean is they're thinking in their head that the investment that they're making in the website is not going to have a positive return on investment, meaning that they're going to spend more on like whatever you quoted the website to be, that's going to cost more than the business that they're going to earn from the website. And therefore the knee-jerk reaction is the I can't afford that response. And so I want to really underscore that when someone says that to you, it's by no means a deal breaker. And in a minute here, what we're going to get to is like, how do you reverse these situations? And really, we'll talk about how to avoid the toxic clients, how to win these reluctant clients that actually end up being really good. So we'll talk about that in a second, but I want to underscore that the I can't afford that objection kind of off the bat oftentimes is a good sign for wanting, for winning the type of client that you really want to have this ongoing relationship with, because what they're thinking in their mind is a very low value type of a thing. Like they're thinking they're buying something that doesn't do much, isn't going to have much of an impact, and therefore needs to be inexpensive. When you come and actually offer a high value solution that solves an urgent problem of theirs, then their eyes are going to open and see that what you're offering is in fact dramatically different from what they had been thinking, because all of the things that they had been exposed to before are kind of in the category of low value, low impact, almost meaningless work. And then when they come across you, you're gonna stand out like a shining star. You're gonna differentiate yourself dramatically right off the bat. And so that's why the I can't afford that objection actually tends to be in your favor. So that's thing number one, the I can't afford that client. Thing number two is kind of the quiet client. The client that doesn't say very much, kind of feels beaten down, nowhere to go, doesn't know what to do. There's just, kind of just the exhausted client. Maybe somebody's been referred to you from somewhere and you kind of get on the phone and they just feel like you kind of just get a sense that there's low energy, almost a feeling of sadness of some sort. And so the initial reaction would be, oh, well, this isn't a client that you want to work with. You want to work with somebody who's excited and got a lot going on. But what I'm here to say is those types of clients oftentimes are the ones that need your help the most. They're the ones that are stuck down, mired down in these big problems. They don't know how to get out of it. They've got, massive problems with income or revenue or branding exposure, or they've spent money on things before that haven't worked. There's all sorts of issues coming up, and they just feel drained, just exhausted, just burnt out. And the cool thing about that is when you come and actually make a high value offer that's going to make a difference, then you have loyalty because you've solved a huge problem for them, and they stick with you on an ongoing basis for that. And they turn into these great high value clients because you're solving these problems that are making them feel quiet and sad and low energy and defeated and burnt out. When you come along, the fact that you have this relationship now with these types of clients, where you're drawing them out of these terrible issues into the success that they're looking for, and you're delivering a level of success that they can't get or haven't been able to get until they met you, that is a fundamentally different sort of a thing. And so those clients tend to turn into loyal, long-term, great clients. So the encouragement here with thing number two is like if you come across a quiet client that seems sort of disinterested or burnt out or whatever, don't just push them aside and think that they're not really a good fit for you, because under the surface there, what's really brewing is, this desire to fix these issues. And they don't want these kind of patchwork jobs, these cheap websites and stuff that don't really do anything. What they really want is a high value solution. When you offer that, those clients turn into loyal, committed, long-term clients. So that's thing number two. Thing number three is the entirely uninterested client. Like, you approach them, maybe you see them at a networking meeting, or maybe a friend of a friend or whatever. Somehow you get connected with somebody, and immediately right off the bat, they just like, I don't want to have anything to do with this. I mean, they don't want to hear it anymore. And the reason for this is that they're like, I've seen it all before. Everybody's doing the same thing. I don't want to have anything to do with it. This is just get away kind of a client. And this is sort of similar to the quiet client, but even more extreme than that, where they've got issues. They've tried to solve the issues with other developers. They've, kind of scoured the web for different various solutions or whatever. They've seen the kinds of results that their friends are getting, that, maybe other friends that are business owners or whatever. And, everybody is kind of suffering from the same issue, and they're just done now. They're just, I'm just not thinking about it. It's all done. I don't want to have anything to do with it. And so the reason that those types of clients turn into really good clients is because of the same reason that the quiet clients turn into really good clients. When you are able to differentiate yourself, because see, here's the reason they're disinterested is not because they're disinterested in their business. They're disinterested because everybody's out there peddling stuff that's bad investments. It's cheap stuff. Like even if you're charging $1,000, it's still overpriced because they could get the same type of outcome for half the price or for less or for free. Or maybe if there's no outcome at all, then what's the point? What's the point of even having, this extra expense and this extra hassle of trying to grind it out online when it's just not making a difference? And so these are the people that just think that the entire online industry or having websites or whatever just doesn't apply to them. And then when you come alongside and say, well, here's actually what I think that you ought to be doing with regard to your business, with regard to your online presence at large, going beyond just a website and getting email and marketing in place and drip campaigns and sales funnels and maybe some e-commerce work or maybe whatever the clients need to like help book phone calls or whatever their issues are, the things that you have the ability to do. And maybe you've got other skills too, right? Like maybe you've got photography skills, maybe you've got videography skills, maybe you've got various forms of copywriting skills so you can really do a great job with content marketing in various areas, even offline, like with brochures and pamphlets and things like that, depending on who the client is. When you begin to say, here's a structure that actually is going to make a difference for you, then you get the lights turn on and you just massively differentiate yourself from what they thought was completely a useless endeavor into something that's probably going to be one of the most important things that they've ever done. And so that type of a flip is even more significant than the client, the quiet client flip. And these are the guys that not only are loyal clients that stick with you, but they then refer you to everybody else that they know. Because when you kind of break through that barrier from, everybody online is worthless into, holy smoke, I didn't realize we could do all this stuff. When you get that kind of a flip, then they become your biggest advocate ever and refer you to every person they know. And even people that are working with other people, they just, hey, you should stop working with them and start working with you because look at the results that we're getting. And it's affordable. It's, not and affordable in the sense that they're making way more money than you're charging them. It's high energy kind of stuff, and you just get so much emphatic praise lavished upon you when you can make that sort of a shift. And so all that is to say that the completely uninterested client is not necessarily a bad client. In fact, a lot of times you're going to find that those are actually, maybe even the best types of clients, because when you show up with that different type of mentality, with that leadership, with that authority, with integrity, with all of your experience, and drive the kind of results that they thought just were impossible altogether or just totally unavailable, boom, that's a huge win. So those are the two different kinds of clients. Now let's talk a little bit about how do you avoid the toxic clients and how do you actually win the great clients. So back to the beginning. So the excited, high energy client, like what's going on? Like how do you identify and detect all of this stuff and so that you don't get yourself into a bad situation right from the get-go? And so this is what I mean when I say set standards for yourself. Like it's really important to upfront think about who you want to work with, who you don't want to be working with, because the goal is to connect with clients that have these long-term relationships so that you're building, recurring revenue for yourself. You're continuing to help them drive results from the types of things that you're implementing online. And that takes time. It's not a one-shot deal. It's not a launch the site and hop to the next client kind of a thing. It's the kind of thing where you need to be constantly, regularly connecting with your clients month after month. And so set some standards in place so that you identify like what are the attributes of people that you really want to be working with. So for example, you might say, hey, I really like people that are high energy, but I also need people who are serious and committed. Like for example, we've talked before about the difference between being curious versus serious or curious versus committed. So, put some of these types of things in your list up front. So when you're out there, out and about, connecting with people, that you've got in your mind who it is you want to connect with and how to identify up front people that you might not want to connect with. So when you find someone who's high energy, yeah, that sounds cool up front, but now you can dig in a little bit deeper to see, is this really, are all of the different standards that you've put in place for yourself really going to pan out? Like are the people that you're looking at and connecting with actually meeting all of your standards or not. And so just having that in place up front as a filter for yourself is dramatically going to help, because most people don't even bother. Most people say, I'll just take a client. They're in front of me. I'll say yes. But what I'm saying is, if you do that, you're going to end up with toxic, high stress, low budget, clients that aren't going to be long-term. So instead, put those standards in place up front so that when you're connecting with clients, you know better how to take action. So step number 2 is like the I have so much to talk about client. How do you avoid those types of clients? And that tends to be people that are just entirely uncoachable. And those are the ones that just want you to do the implementation. And they're not open to any of your leadership or any of your years of experience or your expertise. They think they know all the things, even though they've never done digital marketing, website development, email marketing, whatever it might be. They don't know, they don't have any experience with that, but they just are just this fast talking, so excited, so much to say, implement all these things for me. And when you begin to push back a little bit, saying, hey, I've got a lot of experience in this area, and here's where I think you really need to make a shift. If they don't want to have anything to do with it, again, your standards that you just put in place, put that type of criteria in the list of who you want to be working with, and you're going to find that you're going to be able to avoid that second type of toxic client, the I have so much to talk about type of client. So then the third one is, the hurry up and wait client. And so this is one where fear is often holding them back. Not all the time, but sometimes. The reason that they are hurry up is because they're excited and they want to get something done. But then the wait comes in because they're not quite ready to pull the trigger yet. They're just afraid to take the next step for one reason or another. And so the way you overcome that is if you find that the criteria that you've put in place up front has basically qualified the client as being somebody that you do want to work with, then what you do is you come alongside and uncover the urgency of the problem that you're going to be solving. So for example, if they're not getting enough clients or not getting enough leads for themselves, or if their revenue is not where they want to be, or if they're not getting enough exposure online or whatever, it's like, how much longer do those major problems need to continue before they're really ready to solve those issues? And so coming alongside and actually helping them fix those issues and showing them how the urgency of their issue should not continue on, and you can help them with that. That tends to get over the wait part, the hurry up and wait aspect of it, and brings urgency, makes them take that next step. And you're then leading them across this bridge to success, as opposed to them just being too afraid to cross the bridge in the first place. So that's kind of how you can sort of overcome that hurry up and wait type client. But again, the major point is make sure that all of the other criteria are in the mix, and that it's not just that the reason they're saying wait is because they've lost interest or because they have too many things going on, they're not serious or they're not committed. Making sure that these are the kinds of clients that you do want to be working with. And if you find that that's true, then bringing the urgency of your solution into the picture is going to help you get them from where they are now to where they need to be. So that's kind of how you avoid those toxic clients. Well, how do you win the clients everyone else is passing on? And so all those 3 different things, the I can't afford that client, the quiet client, and the just totally disinterested, uninterested, whatever client. How do you connect in with them? So for the I can't afford that client, what you really want to do is you want to present an offer that's connected to the return on investment. So generally speaking, when someone says they can't afford that, again, what they really mean is the price is higher than they think the return is going to be. And so when you can make an offer that connects the return with what you're going to be doing, then the price is now balanced. And so one of the things that I say all the time with regard to pricing is there's 2 things that can really fundamentally go wrong with the pricing of your projects. The first problem is you've got this really high value offer, this high ticket offer worthy of, $3, $5, $7, $10,000 worth of an investment, but yet you're putting a low ticket price on it, like $800, $1,200, something like that. And so what you end up having in that situation is kind of like that fake Rolex watch sort of thing. Like you go to New York or whatever, and somebody's out on the street and they say, hey, you want to buy this Rolex? And you're like, yeah, it looks good. How much? And you're like, oh, $50. Well, you immediately know there's no way the Rolex is going to be $50. So if it was, in fact, a genuine Rolex watch and they said $50, even if it was the legit deal, you would instantly think there's no way that that's legit. And so you would then, pass on the offer, even though it really is in fact a high value watch. When you put that low ticket price on there, you're instantly going to assume it's not really as high value as it seems. And so what that is, that's a situation where you're undervaluing your price. And most of the people that I talk to, like when we talk like in the double stack program, or if we just do like a quick call or whatever to kind of start, getting people pointed in the right direction, that's one of the major problems. One of the major problems is like you've got years of experience. You can do a lot of stuff online. You even have some offline skills, maybe like videography, photography, SEO, lots of skills, lots of experience. Maybe you've even worked at an agency before doing this kind of high value work for high ticket prices for them. But now that you're out on your own, it's really difficult to onboard clients at those same prices. So you just keep lowering and lowering and lowering the price to the point where eventually people are going to be like, there's no way somebody could actually do all that stuff for this price. It's just no way. And so they're going to disqualify you because of the price. The price is too low. You got this high ticket offer, this low price tag, and it just doesn't work. The other problem is kind of the opposite of that, where sometimes I'll talk to people that are like, I've got all of this experience. I'm doing all this great stuff. I'm just going to triple my pricing. And so now what you have is you still have the same low value offer that you had before, but you just tripled or quadrupled your price. And so now you're vastly more expensive than everybody else, and you priced yourself out of the market. You're just too high. It's too much. Nobody's going to pay that because they can get the same thing from somebody else, or even build it themselves on Wix or whatever, for just way lower pricing. So you want to make sure that pricing is balanced. And when you do that, then what you're going to find is the I can't afford that client sort of comes back into play, because now you're connecting the dots between what your offer is and what the investment's going to be versus what the return on the investment is going to be. So that's kind of thing number one to how to onboard clients that have the I can't afford that mindset to them. The second one is like, how do you get the quiet client on board? Like, what's the deal there? And the deal with that is you want to bring, have you ever heard the difference between like empathy and sympathy? You want to bring empathy to the project. And so what that means is, the difference there is, if you're empathetic, like if empathy is you understand where the person is coming from and you help them through it. Sympathy is you understand where the person is coming from to the point where you actually become part of the problem, where now you're wrapped up in the problem rather than you becoming the solution to the problem. And so you want to bring empathy to the project and to the problem, not sympathy. And that's how you kind of onboard these quiet, beaten down, kind of burnt out clients. Is like you empathize with the fact that, hey, I understand that most of the people out there are selling these low value, web presence things, packages that really don't have an impact for your business, that don't generate more business results or outcomes for you, and that's frustrating. And that if you've been strung through that for a while, I can understand how you'd be beat down by it, but here's what we can actually do to solve that. And so you use your leadership and your integrity and the years of experience that you have to bring them out of that situation and into a much better situation, much higher level of success than they would otherwise be able to achieve had it not been for you connecting with them. As opposed to, the sympathy situation would look like, well, I understand if you've been beaten down by a bunch of web developers, maybe you don't really want what I do, because I'm a web developer too. You just become part of the problem, as opposed to really kind of helping them lift themselves out of the problem. So that's kind of how you onboard these quiet clients that kind of feel strung out, is you relate to the fact that they are kind of beaten down by it, but rather than giving them more of the same, you actually deliver a much different, fundamentally different product than what they've been experiencing before, in the sense that you're bringing them out of, you're solving the problem, you're not becoming part of it. So that's kind of how you get the quiet client on board. And then the completely uninterested client, what you need to be doing here is like, they have probably seen all the things under the sun, so to speak. Like they feel like they know all of the things, have seen all the tactics that everybody uses and all the different skills and technical things that are online with drip campaigns and sales funnels and websites and email marketing and SEO and responsive design. Like they've seen all this stuff and none of it does anything for them. They don't even think it's even, what's the point of any of it? They've seen it all and none of it works. That's the kind of client that, that tends to be the completely uninterested client. And so how do you connect with them? How do you bust through that? And so what you need to do, the fundamental thing, is differentiate your offer from what you're offering. And what I mean by that is like what you're offering is all the technical stuff. So don't emphasize the website and the email marketing and the SEO work and the responsive design and all of the different things that you're doing. Don't emphasize that. Instead, emphasize the result of having successfully done those things. So that's the offer. The offer is the result of having successfully implemented the things that you're offering. So put the emphasis on the offer, not what you're offering to do. And so when you begin to differentiate between those two things, you'll find most of the time you can really get somebody's attention by doing that, because you're talking about something new. You're talking about something that applies to them. It's their business. They're not trying to get their mind around what you can do. You're getting your mind around what they need, and that's a fundamentally different thing. And so when you do that, you can really break into just something fresh and new and exciting, and then you can get those clients that used to be just completely disinterested and didn't want to have anything to do with you. Now they're freaking your complete cheerleaders through and through. They're devoted, they're loyal, they're long-term people, and they're your ambassadors. They're the ones out there telling the world that everybody who ever had any sort of an online need of any sort needs to work with you, because you're fundamentally different from everybody else. And of course the difference is you're driving results while everybody else is just offering technical services. So that's kind of a lot. I know we went through a lot of things pretty quickly today, but that's the gist of it. And so if you're sitting there thinking, hey, you want to be connecting in with clients in this high value way, but you're feeling a little bit stuck with regard to how to do it, let's talk about how to get that fixed for you so that you can actually get the high value, long-term, monthly residual income type clients that are going to love working with you, that you love working with, and that you end up stabilizing your business with this recurring revenue. You've got higher prices. You're leveraging your time in the sense that you're leveraging your time in two ways. You're charging a higher ticket rate up front, which is great because now you don't have to work as many hours to make the same amount of money. And thing number two is when you have these recurring retainers in place, you can spend much more of your time doing billable work versus non-billable work. And so what that means is if you don't have to keep finding clients and writing proposals all the time, then you can actually spend your time doing billable work. So non-billable work is all the stuff that you have to do where you're not getting paid for it, right? Like writing a proposal, you do that for free. Connecting with clients, new clients, you do that for free. Prospecting for clients, you do that for free. Cutting out all of that stuff that you do for free and now emphasizing the stuff that you do that's billable work, that's going to leverage your time, make your business much more successful so you can make more money without having to work as many hours. So if these are the kinds of things that you want to do, you want help implementing these kinds of things into your business, let's talk about it. We can do it for free. If you head over to doublestack.net/call, you'll find my calendar. You can book a time. We can do a one-on-one conversation to see, is this the kind of direction that you want to be heading, or at least we can point you in the right direction. And then, again, it's a completely free call. There's no obligation to do anything or buy anything or whatever. If you want to continue to talk about maybe whether Double Stack is right for you and you want some one-on-one help to kind of, implement the stuff that we've been talking about, and you're looking for the mentorship and the community and the support and the mindset training and, the tools and the structure and all of those different types of things, and you kind of want to keep doing that on an ongoing basis, for 8 weeks, the Double Stack course is an 8-week system that gets you the technical skills, the marketing tools, and the business structure so you can scale to $5,000 to $10,000 per month consistently by implementing the stuff we just talked about today with regard to connecting in with the right clients, avoiding the toxic clients, getting these monthly retainers in place, and leveraging your time because you're charging more per hour and you're doing more of your work week is billable hours instead of non-billable ones. So if that's what you're looking for, we can talk about that and see if that's a good fit for both of us. And if so, awesome. If not, that's totally cool too. But on this call, you'll at least get clarity on how can you begin to break away from the high stress, nitpicky, never satisfied clients into the clients you really want to be working with on that ongoing basis. So head over to doublestack.net/call. You'll see my calendar. Pick a time that you feel like works good for you. And right after that, you'll see a little form. Fill that out real quick. It's like 4 or 5 questions about, link to your website, a little bit of history about, who you're working with and what kind of projects you take on. So when we get on the phone, I'll be ready to roll and prepared to know how to talk to you about your business. So head over to doublestack.net/call. Let's pick a time to talk, and And if you have any other questions or comments, or if this conversation really resonated with you, definitely put a message down in the comments there. I'll keep an eye on that throughout the week. And we can connect that way. We do these types of conversations here every week on Tuesdays at 2. So if you're in the Facebook group checking this out and you want to kind of get these lessons on the go, you can head over to iTunes or I think it's called Apple Podcast. You can go to Google Podcast or Spotify and get it on a podcast, check it out on the go. If you're listening to this stuff on a podcast and you want to be interacting live here in the group, head over to Building High Value WordPress Sites Facebook group. It's free, and we can connect here. And that way you can actually see me as well as hear. And of course, you can also leave some comments and we can talk kind of real time. So there we go, guys. All right, that's what we got for today. High five for the week. Boop. And we'll connect in again on Tuesday. All right, guys. Until then.